Seabird nesting colonies on islands throughout the world have experienced devastating destruction due to human persecution and attacks from animals. Currently, 24 species are classified as endangered. Rolex Laureate Stephen Kress has developed techniques that will benefit them. In particular, this American ornithologist and wildlife specialist has been working on a project to attract seabirds back to their former homes off the state of Maine.
The Seabird Colony Creation Project was inspired by my experiences on the Maine coast, visiting seabird islands, realizing what an exciting place a seabird colony was when all the typical and representative species were there. And I began to realize that the Maine coast, like much of the North Atlantic, used to have a much greater variety of seabirds on it than it has today. And that even though seabirds have been protected for the last 60, 70 years in the United States, some populations have still not recovered from the plume hunting days of the late 1800s, when people used to hunt these birds for their feathers and for food. And so we began a project back in 1973 to see whether we could learn techniques for restoring seabirds to islands where they once lived.
Kress decided that puffins would make an ideal model for trying out techniques of transferring colonies of nesting birds. The bird has a special appeal, and its stocky shape and upright posture make it particularly attractive to man.
Nobody had ever transported small puffins before or had demonstrated that they would, in fact, return to a release site rather than their original home. But that's what our project was based on. The notion that young puffins would come back to the island that they left from rather than the island where they were originally hatched.
The largest colony of Atlantic puffins in North America is on Great Island, Newfoundland. There are over 360,000 breeding pairs nesting in burrows deep in the hillsides. It was here that Kress had to find the 2-week-old puffin chicks he needed to commence his experiment.
You have to reach into dozens of holes to find a burrow that you can reach the chick, and then you have to make sure that the chick is the right age. We take the chick and weigh it and measure its wing cord, and determining the age by the length of the wing.
With the selection complete, the chicks were transported over 1,000 miles. After a 19-hour journey by plane, car, and finally small boat, they eventually arrived at their new home, Eastern Egg Rock, off the coast of Maine. Kress began his transplant operation by moving 6 young puffins. He repeated the experiment several times. To encourage the adult puffins to make their own nests on the island, Kress decided on a novel approach: decoys, which he hoped would intrigue the birds and persuade them to stay on the island and breed. The plan worked, and now, for the first time in 100 years, puffins are re-established in their former home. After his success with puffins, Kress tried the same technique to encourage Arctic terns to resettle on Eastern Egg Rock. Once again, he used decoys, but this time he backed them up with recordings of tern mating calls. The tern colony on the island has now grown to over 1,000 pairs, the largest in Maine. Back at his winter base at Cornell University Institute of Ornithology, Ithaca, Kress is planning more projects. He hopes to help save species such as the Hawaiian dark-rumped petrel, and in Japan, the short-tailed albatross, of which there is only one remaining nesting colony.
Well, I've been interested in natural history as long as I can remember. spending weekends in the local parks, pursuing everything from frogs to insects to studying trees and geology. It all fits together, and it's been central to my life from the earliest years. The Rolex Award was an important achievement for me because it demonstrated that our work has international significance. We have felt for a long time that what we were working on off the coast of Maine had great implications for seabirds on even remote, distant islands from the coast of Maine.
And thanks to Stephen Kress, there is now hope for safer nesting grounds for the many endangered seabirds.